These are the best resources for beginners to start their journey towards Mandarin fluency. You might want to learn Mandarin, but don't know where to start. And choosing the right resource can be confusing and overwhelming. In this video, not only will I share the best beginner resources, but I'll also help you to avoid the common pitfalls of beginner learners. Many of the resources are free, and some of them you won't find mentioned elsewhere. If you're new here, I'm Ace. I've been studying Chinese for about 4 years, and I've reached an upper intermediate or advanced level. I studied Chinese and engineering at the University of Melbourne, and my Chinese studies led me to place second in the International Chinese Bridge Chinese Proficiency Competition, and even speak on one of the most watched television programs in China. My advice today comes mainly from personal experience, and I will be sharing the best textbooks, graded readers, apps, YouTube channels, podcasts, and websites that I think are best for beginner learners so that you improve fast. All right, so we're going to start with textbooks. Textbooks might not be super sexy, but they have both written and audio content, and also they have grammar and vocabulary explanations, which make them super convenient for beginners who like studying with structure, especially if you're a complete beginner. A popular textbook series is the HSK Standard Course. HSK, 汉语水平考试, is a Chinese proficiency test with textbooks and workbooks from levels 1 through to 6. These textbooks are widely used, they focus on simplified Chinese, they start at a beginner level, and they have textbook passages which you can follow in both audio and written form. If you prefer online courses, as a bonus, on Coursera you can even audit Peking University's HSK course for free. There are also many other popular and useful Chinese textbook series out there. For example, there's the Integrated Chinese textbook series with a focus on both traditional and simplified characters you can choose. Or there is a course in contemporary Chinese with a focus on traditional characters that I personally use when studying at the Mandarin Training Center in Taipei. Just a quick extra tip. Personally, when using textbooks, I focus almost entirely on reading and listening to the text, maybe looking at grammar and vocabulary explanations if I need a bit of extra help to understand, but I kind of completely ignore the exercises because I find them kind of boring and not particularly useful. Ultimately, any single one of these textbooks will help you to improve your goals. So don't stress too much about making the perfect choice. Just pick one and roll with it. In fact, I must say, resources don't even matter. What do I mean by that? The main problem is putting in the work, not finding the perfect resource. The most important thing is not finding the perfect textbook or the perfect app. It's studying consistently. Hoarding resources will not improve your Chinese, but spending time listening to Chinese, speaking Chinese, writing Chinese, and reading Chinese will. That's why I've made this video. If you watch to the end of this video, you'll know what the best resources are to study effectively. That will simplify your problem down to just choosing 1 or 2 resources so that you can study effectively and consistently. Now for graded readers. Graded readers are essentially simplified books for language learners. They have content which is controlled, which progresses in difficulty throughout a series, which makes them really good because they're easy to understand, and also you gain a sense of accomplishment as you read and progress. The idea is to read lots of language that's appropriate for your level, because that way you build up reading fluency, comprehension skills, and confidence. The first series that I want to recommend is Mandarin Companion. Mandarin Companion has graded readers that increase in difficulty from what they call a breakthrough level, which uses 150 unique characters to write their stories, all the way through to level 2, which uses 450 unique characters. I personally really like reading this series before going to sleep for 2 reasons. 1, I like the illustrations. 2, because they had footnotes. And the footnotes explained the vocabulary to me that I didn't know without me needing to look it up, which meant I didn't get exposed to the blue light from a screen before going to sleep. This series is great for you if you're a beginner, once you have a handle of the basics, and once you know about 150 unique characters. It's a great way to start practicing reading. Once you've finished with Mandarin Companion, you can start with the Chinese Breeze series, also known as 汉语风. This series is great because they have graded readers which increase in difficulty from a 300 character level all the way through to a 1,100 character level. I personally read almost every graded reader in both of these series, and it greatly helped me improve my Chinese reading skills. It can help you too. I also have 5 apps which I recommend to take you from being a beginner to fluent. The first is Dual Chinese. Dual Chinese is an app which offers graded reading content from a beginner to an advanced level on a variety of topics. It's great because it has English translations in Pinyin, which you can toggle on and off on the app, and it ticks all the boxes. It has level appropriate content, it has a written and audio content, and it has a variety of topics to suit your interests. The Chairman's Bow is a similar app, but it's a news-based graded reader. So it's essentially like a newspaper, but for Mandarin learners, with articles tailored to specific levels. It's updated with current events, so you can get to know what's happening in China, while optimally practicing your reading and listening skills through graded reading Chinese content. Pleco is a completely different kind of app. It's a dictionary app, but it is a must-have for beginners. This is because if you only know how a word looks or only know how a word sounds, you can always look it up. If you only know how it looks, then you can draw it to look it up. If you only know how it sounds, then you can enter pinyin to look it up. Also, it has some other features like a lookup history, so you can save what you've looked up. And it also has flashcards. iTalki is a platform where you can find Mandarin speakers for one-on-one tutoring. It's great because you can find a tutor who is perfectly adjusted for your learning style, interests, and budget. Just a quick tip, if you're a beginner getting started out, I recommend finding a tutor with a communication-based learning style. This is because they can give you input which is perfectly adjusted for your level to help you improve, understand, and progress. And also because they can give you the occasional feedback on your own output and explanations when you need it. If you want someone to practice conversations with, but you don't have the budget, then you might be interested in a language exchange app like HelloTalk or Tandem. Essentially, the way these apps work is you connect with someone who wants to learn the language that you know, and in exchange for helping them learn, they'll help you learn Mandarin. Just a few quick tips. I recommend going for depth over breadth. That means try to find someone who you vibe with and speak with them, rather than responding to all the messages that you get on the app, because it can be way too overwhelming. Also, try to find someone who is serious about their language learning goals, and don't speak with someone who is just treating the app like a dating site. Now, these are only some of the resources that can help you to go from being a beginner to fluent in Mandarin. Keep watching to discover the YouTube channels with authentic content that can take your learning to the next level. The first channel is Lazy Chinese, Comprehensible Input. It's great for beginners and up because it has content entirely in Chinese, classified from a beginner to advanced level. It's based on the idea of comprehensible input. Essentially, you keep watching level-appropriate content, and the more you watch, your brain will naturally decipher the language and help you understand. On Su Qing's website, she has an extra complete beginner level, which is great if you're just starting out. It's perfect because it's entirely in Chinese with lots of repetition and redundancies to help you understand. If you're going to use this resource, just make sure that you start with the beginner content, not the advanced content. Otherwise, you will not understand. The following channels are more appropriate for advanced beginners, people looking to grow into more authentic content, but not complete beginners. The Learn Real Life Chinese playlist of Learn Chinese Essentials is another really great resource. Essentially, it's a series of short videos of a Chinese teacher speaking with her daughter, and it's a great source of input because everything is in simple and understandable Chinese with pinyin and English translations. It's also really great because the videos are short, which makes them convenient to consume. Shuo Chinese is another great channel. Shuo has many videos with explanations for Mandarin learners, vocabulary and grammar explanations, and simplified stories. If you're a beginner, well, then you can start with her Beginner HSK 1 to 2 playlist. I must say though, if you're busy and you don't have time to watch YouTube videos, then you're going to be interested by the following podcasts. This is because podcasts can be listened to in dead time, time when your body is occupied but your mind is free. For example, when you're doing household chores or commuting somewhere. The first podcast that I want to recommend is Melnick's Chinese. This is because it's a podcast that is theme-based, progressive, and is essentially structured like an online audio course. So it increases in difficulty from an absolute beginner level onwards. In each episode, the structure is such that the host, Serge Melnick, starts by sharing and explaining new vocabulary, and he also brings in other voices so you can hear Mandarin spoken by other people and get familiar with the vocabulary. Then at the end of each episode, there are situational dialogues to help you practice listening to everything that you've learned in context. The thing that is nice about this course or podcast is that it works in an audio-only format, so you can use it when you can only listen. Having said that, there are transcripts available on his website if you do want them. I must say though, it does have the drawback that you're going to spend a lot of time listening to English. But if you are a complete beginner, you need to get a foundational foothold in Chinese somehow, and this can be a good absolute beginner audio resource. If you're a little bit further along in your Chinese studies though, you're going to want to look for an audio resource with a more immersive approach. A podcast with an immersive but intense approach is 听故事说中文, Learn Chinese Through Stories. The podcast is great because the two hosts do an amazing job of keeping everything in Chinese and helping you to understand without relying on translation, which means by listening to it, you get a huge amount of Chinese input and a lot of bang for your buck. The time is spent efficiently. Most episodes of the podcast come in pairs, where one episode is a story and the other episode is an explanation of that story. I must say though, normally the stories are more difficult to understand than the explanations themselves. So if you're listening to a story and you find it difficult to understand, don't worry, stay calm, get the input, let your brain do the natural pattern recognition that it does best, and you will gradually learn to understand. Episodes are labeled according to major proficiency levels: novice, intermediate, and advanced. Beginner episodes can be hard to find when navigating in a podcast app, but this Spotify playlist should help you. Also, if you want easy browsing and access to transcripts, they have a Patreon. Now, with all of these resources that I've mentioned, you still might find that sometimes you need to look things up and look for further explanations. That's where these websites will help you on your journey towards Mandarin fluency. The first website is Yellowbridge. It has a lot of functionalities, but I mainly just use its dictionary function. This is because it gives you a lot of things. It doesn't just give you a translation of the word, but it also gives you the stroke order, other words that use the same characters, the HSK level of the word, the pronunciation of the word, the etymology of the word, so where the word comes from, and much more. Another website is Chinese Grammar Wiki. Chinese Grammar Wiki gives you explanations of grammar, but it does it in such a way that it's organized by difficulty, and there are lots of clear examples of how to actually use the grammar. If you ever read a sentence and find that even though you understand all the words, you don't understand the full meaning of the sentence, it's probably because there's some grammar that you're not aware of. That's where this resource can be really useful. Another website which can be useful is Wumao Corp's HSK Check. I personally didn't study following the HSK curriculum, but from time to time, I still like to see how many words from the HSK curriculum I've naturally acquired. That's where this HSK Check resource can be really nice because it's a way of tracking vocabulary growth and giving yourself a sense of accomplishment. These beginner resources will help you to build a very strong foundation in Mandarin. But if you're curious about how to bring them all together in an organized study plan, then you might be interested in this video.